What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Comics Grind. I am one of your hosts, Nico Rodriguez,
And I'm Ken, aka Comic Ken on YouTube.
and thanks so much for joining us again here on another weekly episode. Ken, what's going on, dude?
Man, not much, man. Well, actually, a whole lot. But this is a nice, I guess, calm in the storm because most of my week has just been grinding away at these strips. I'm doing basically a strip a day in May, and the challenge I'm trying to complete is called Manga May, and there's this guy Monitor Comics on YouTube who created this challenge, and I was just like, fuck it, let me see if I can actually accomplish this and get it done because what I realized is that I was way too in my head on creating air rider comics, and I was just like, let me get out of it and just be really experimental with what I'm trying to do. So I've been working on that and the color pages that I have to do. So yeah, that's pretty much been my week so far. How about you?
Yeah, no, just coming off of that, like those monthly challenges. Have you done like the Inktober challenges before?
I've only completed it one time,
Yeah,
or maybe two, but yeah, there was times I've done that, especially before the Cooper School and during.
yeah, they're freaking stressful, man. I think I did it. I did it every day last year. Um, but it was like, it's almost to the point where like you've got to like queue up some, like one day you maybe have to do like one or two or three if you can, because like those days like are too much, man. And like I try, like when I was doing it, like I was just trying to do, just inked stuff, penciled and inked. But then some people just like go even harder and like put colors and stuff in. It's like I don't want to
Right,
dedicate my entire every single day, every single free time to like these challenges.
right,
But they're fun though. They kind of help grow the following too. Cause
yeah,
you hashtag manga, was it manga May? So
yep,
then other people who are doing it and who are following that tag, they see you. So it helps, but damn, it's stressful, dude. It's
yeah,
stressful ass free work. That's what it is. Like
right, yeah,
work
exactly.
not getting paid for.
Right. I mean, it's good for exposure, but I don't know. It's stressful if you don't queue them up. Actually, at the Cuba school, there was this one girl that actually queued up her Inktober pages because she already knew it was coming, so she already had it like 5 or 4 days in advance, and did several drawings and just would upload those, and she was just chilling the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's smart. I mean, it helps too. It helps you practice because it's like in Inktober, it'd be like random words like raven or like, you know, uh, fish, like
Right.
random words that you probably won't draw, if you didn't have them, as a prompt. But pretty cool. It's
Exactly.
pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, just in regards to my week so far, I've been working on pages and stuff, still plugging away, still in the pencil inking phase. Been kind of giving a lot of thought to like thinking about my schedule for the book and like when I can legitimately get this graphic novel done.
Right.
Stressing me out, I'm not gonna lie, because it's always like just thinking about the future and being like, okay, like if I do this many pages in a month, that means I can do all these pages by this certain point. But then I've got to go back through and paint all these things, and it's just like I'm scheduling things out, and like I was hoping to be done sooner than I think I am. You know,
Right.
I could no, sorry, I'm I think I'm gonna be done later than I thought I was, which is like kind of annoying. But
I wanted to ask actually, um, why a graphic novel? Why not like a comic strip or something that's more like that's simpler? Like a graphic novel, a whole graphic novel, 100 something page graphic novel, like that's a lot. That's an ordeal, man.
yeah, totally, I totally agree with you.
What
um,
made you decide to go with that?
I think that you know there's kind of a handful of reasons. One is I feel like my story that I'm telling is told best in the full chunk, almost like
Hmm.
one big movie,
Right.
one big animated series or whatever it would be. um, because I feel like I mean, I could section it up because I have it sectioned out in chapters,
Uh-huh.
but um, just like through some like market research and just really what I gravitate to, I at this stage in my comics reading and comics collecting, like I'm always going for graphic novels.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like that's like the best way to consume comics right now, and it's the best fit for my story. Um, I also there was a podcast I was listening to. I can't remember what, but I've mentioned this creator before, Kyle Starks.
Right.
Um, so he was talking once about because he when he writes and draws his own stuff, he basically only does graphic novels. Sex Castle, Old Head. Um, uh, what was the other one that I have? Rock Candy Mountain. But did that come out in singles? That might have came out in singles first. I can't remember. But I
Hmm.
know Sex Castle and Old Head. Um, they came out as graphic novels, and he was like, not only um, were my stories fit for it, and I could, when I needed an extra page, or I needed two more, or I needed an extra scene, I could put it in there because I wasn't limited by the boundaries of like a 24-page single comic, which I sense that now. And in addition to that, he was like, look, if you're ever trying to like get a book series picked up or really just garner like very good interest in it from somebody, it's best to have like your whole full package ready to go, done like in this volume, to where like that is your pitch, that is your pitch to that customer, that is that pitch to your potential publisher or whoever. Um, that's your pitch to your Kickstarter. So just a lot of those things that I kind of took into consideration, um, and it's been a great experience. It just takes long as hell.
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have a different philosophy in terms of like making comic strips and whatnot. But we'll get to that in a minute. I actually wanted to bounce off of an idea that you had the other week, which was like, what are you reading currently? Like, what's catching your attention?
So what I'm reading right now, I'm reading two books primarily, and then just looking at other stuff and kind of learning through osmosis. Um, One of them is Rain Like Hammers by Brandon Graham. Um, Been wanting to read this book, and but it also happens to be I'm part of a local comic book club, so we read like a graphic novel every month, and then we talk about them.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
in this month, I pitched Rain Like Hammers, so I'm reading through that. It's awesome. Brandon Graham is just an insane drawer. He's like one of these guys that can go straight from pen to finished. He doesn't even have to like
Right.
pencil things. His perspective is just absolutely insane.
Is
His
that his?
writing style, you have to know. What's that?
Oh, is that his most recent book?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
hmm
nice.
Yeah, it's his most. I think in 2019 he came out with it. It,
Okay.
it came out in singles. I think it was 6 or 7 or 8 singles. Um, but yeah, it's really good. His writing style, you have to kind of adapt to it, and you have to like know what you're getting into because it's insane, and it's like hard to keep up sometimes because there's just so many concepts coming at you.
Yeah.
Um, but
I
I mean, even just as an art book, like it's such good study material.
Right, because I remember his stuff from King City back in the day.
Yeah,
I read that a long time ago.
yeah. King City's wild too. Everything he does is wild. Like his writing style is just it's super unique, and
Yeah.
it's like he's just like the sometimes when you look at his pages, it like looks like he's just like doodling. you know, but
Right.
he's like doodling with a little bit of intent, you know. He like
Yeah.
knows the beginning, he knows the end, like the beginning of his page, he knows what the end of his page is going to be, and then like sometimes he just like draws like these little symbols and all these little kind of like crazy characters. So I'm kind of getting inspired by that kind of stuff too, because in my graphic novel right now, I'm drawing a drug trip scene. So it's like, you know, 10 pages of just like my character. He just took some drugs and now he's flipping the fuck out. Uh,
Right.
and so I'm kind of like I've been picking up some things that you know Brandon Graham does, and kind of implementing some of that kind of cool kind of craziness in there. Yeah, that's one of the books. What about you? You been reading anything sweet?
Yeah. My friend gave me Destroyer to read. It's this comic book by Robert Kirkman and Cory Walker. They basically did the first 8 issues of Invincible together. So I think this was their project either before that or after that because it looked like Cory Walker's more updated style. But yeah, Destroyer is like the story about this old man who he's dying and he's a like a previous super like he's an old superhero. So now he has to basically destroy all his old enemies and tie up all loose ends so that he keeps his family safe after he passes on. And I've read the first 2 to 3 issues, and now it's just starting to get really good. So I'm gonna keep going with that. But it's all just very like simple storytelling. Robert Kirkman is just really good at that. At simple storytelling, he doesn't cause any unnecessary drama in the stories. It's mostly very natural feel. And then he makes the superhero stuff seem simpler than it is. It's not it's not super overblown. It's more focused on the character interactions versus the big superhero moments.
Yeah,
That's what I like about it.
nice, nice. Yeah, I haven't read it, so you have to let me know how it is. I'll have to check it out for sure.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Cool. Some good stuff there. Some good stuff there. We've had some good weeks, some busy weeks. We've got a bunch of projects going on, commissions, all this sorts of stuff. As far as our main topic for the week, I guess you had some pretty good ideas, Ken. What's the main topic for this week?
Well, I was thinking about well, for years I've been consuming manga, comics, animation, and graphic novels. But I was always wondering about like what's the best way to one like get good at art, but then what's the best way to present my story? And for me, I finally settled on strips with this current challenge that I'm doing. I thought strips is the best way for me to get my story out there in the way that I want to do it, and then in the way that I want to practice. But strips is not gonna work for everybody. So I always wonder, like, okay, what's the best story format for your comic? Um, and I thought we'd talk about that, go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I guess kind of piggybacking off of what we were actually just talking about earlier in terms of, you know, why I decided to go with, you know, the graphic novel route as opposed to like single comics or something.
Right.
And it's kind of hard to explain because I mean, I do feel that being confined is limiting sometimes, you know?
Confined in what way?
Just in terms of so like if you're doing like a 20-page book and it has to be 20 pages,
Right.
you have to make sure, which isn't a bad thing all the time, because sometimes your story calls for it can be have a simple beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
But like in terms of like how I've been naturally progressing through this graphic novel, it's felt so liberating because if I want to do like a flashback scene from a character, I can do it, and I can
Right.
give what would be maybe a minor character in a 20-page story that has maybe 2 pages of screen time. Now I can grab that character, put him in like a legitimate scene or like some kind of flashback to give it a little bit more development. And if you want to do that with a graphic novel, you can do that. Whereas opposed like if you're um, restricted to like a 20-page format, maybe you can do that, and maybe as an end result, you can't quite connect with your readers or your audience as much as you would have liked to.
Right.
Um, so like that's certainly a portion of it. But
Yeah.
like with the strips and everything, um, I guess are you concerned about that at all in terms of
Well,
like yeah
well, I already tried the sort of issue by issue comic style. I've done 2 issues of Air Rider right now, and I have like a couple of shorter issues, like a pilot issue and like a little one shot with another friend. But I feel like it's a lot harder to get people invested in the story when they're waiting so long for the next issue to come out. Because right now I'm doing it all on my own by myself. But with strips, I can get out any idea that I'm thinking about during the day. I can draw it down at night and then send it out the next day or send it out that day. Any idea, like I have tons of ideas running through my head all the time, especially when I listen to music. But I've never found a way to uh, successfully get those ideas down, or like I never felt interested in putting those ideas down because I always had a whole bunch of story to get through before I would even get to those moments in the story. But with strip format, I can hit those moments immediately, but I would have to sacrifice like story build up and that kind of thing. So I think strips has the potential to be the best of both worlds. It can get people interested in the strip at hand, which is just a short little segment of a much larger story, and then the larger story can act as a framework, um, so that people just kind of know what they're getting into in general. So like, Air Rider is a story about the son of a school shooter, and it's now 16 years later, and he's like, there's all these like super villains showing up connected to the past, the shooter, and now the main character, one of them hurts his friend, and now the main character Eric, he becomes a superhero to fight back against these super villains. So within that framework, um, I can just do strips of him fighting different villains or going about his day at school, all sorts of stuff that just kind of gives you an idea of the vibe of Air Rider. But at the same time, I'm developing my skills um, each strip like as I go along, like drawing faster um, and brevity. Like that's not something I ever really considered before. I was just like drawing. Oh, I can add a panel here. Oh, I can add that there, just because I had a chapter format to get into, and I would always use that. I would always take advantage of that and add too many extra images that didn't really need to be there. And with strip format, I have to really truncate everything down so that I can get it out within the day.
yeah, for sure. No, it's actually no, I mean that's I totally understand that. It's actually kind of interesting that we're talking about that like this subject this week because um, on a separate project from the graphic novel and from everything else, I'm working on like a strip type of thing for kind of a local zine project that I'm super excited about that I'm working with a couple of my other friend and local creators. Um,
Right.
and yeah, like I've experienced that exact same thing. I did I did one strip that was like a four panel gag joke, you know, and it was
Right.
and it's interesting when you're limited to, you know, just those three panels. You know, the first panel for me was is like a title panel, just like you know what the name of the strip is or whatever, and then you know
Right.
first, second, and third, um, and you know it's certainly a different muscle because you've got to you know you've got to put that punchline in there, you've got to deliver it by that third panel. You don't have a whole bunch of time to kind of you know reflect on the joke or reflect on the person. You kind of gotta get to the point quickly. You know, beginning, middle, and end. Um, but the other thing that I guess I get concerned about, just you know, thinking about the big picture of everything.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of like society now, it's such a how do you say it? Binge centric culture, right? So like
Right.
when people watch a show, they watch all 12 episodes at once. You know, they're not waiting for an episode week to week or something like that. Um, and I wonder if that's kind of the same thing with comics. And do we take that concept that's, you know, within, you know, other media and everything and apply it to comics, especially as, you know, us as indie writer, indie artist? Um, do we have to take that kind of that societal development and kind of consider that when we're making our books? Because that's another thing that I kind of think about all the time.
Right.
Uh, yeah, I mean I mean, and that could be contributing, you know, not directly, but maybe there's like a thought in my mind that you know people want to read everything in one book. You
Right.
know, do
Um.
you have any kind of fears about that in terms of like you know doing your strips or doing your individual comics?
Well, in terms of like how society consumes stuff, I was thinking about stuff like Calvin and Hobbes or Peanuts, strips like strips that are timeless. That even if you go back to them, you can still get the same feeling from them because they're not bound to the time period. They're bound to universal emotional human feelings. So when people read those, it doesn't matter if it was created in 2023 or 1980 or whatever, like whatever time period, it still applies, no matter like no matter when you're reading it. So if I think to escape the sort of binge culture, you would have to make something that's timeless. And right now, it's like with my strips, I don't have the the writing chops or the drawing chops to really keep people's attention that well right now. But with the strips, I hope to develop that ability over time as I get better at drawing, get faster at drawing, and all that sort of stuff. So I can just put out my ideas quickly, find the ones that stick, and then just pivot from there. Um,
Yeah, no, it's certainly a different creative muscle.
right,
And I've you know I've certainly realized that, and like they're both you know fantastic forms of the craft. You know, I think just to give a little shout out to like one of my favorite strips. It's called Macanudo by
oh right, yeah,
I think I had mentioned to you that strip to you a couple weeks ago or something, but
yeah,
I love that strip because yes, it's confined to
mm,
like you know like a one page strip or whatever, but it's so different than any other strip that I've seen because he does basically whatever he wants. Like he
right,
makes a gag strip, he makes like a thoughtful strip with like witches or these little elves, but then sometimes he like, you know, makes like a Star Wars gag joke, but he does it like in a watercolory style, which of course, I love.
Right.
But then like his panel layout and everything is very different than like a standard, Peanuts format.
Right.
Super cool. So I do think that, while there are limitations in strips, just because, it's got to be short and concise, you can still be creative as hell with it.
Right.
Break out of the panels and, do all that kind of stuff. Um, so yeah, viewers out there, if you have not checked out Macanudo by Laniers, check it out. It's a daily strip. You can find it. I think it's on Comics Kingdom and something else. But it's free. You can read them every day for free on the internet. Um,
Yeah, a strip like that reminds me of this one that I really like called the Perry Bible Fellowship. It's
okay.
just like it's a humor strip, but it has like so many different styles that's used within it. But it's funny almost every single time. The writer is just really good at delivering a punchline by the end of the strip, and the setup is always great. Um, I think what I'm doing is different because I'm not doing a humor strip per se, but I'm I'm trying to tell jokes within the larger framework of a story. And one comic book that I really like in terms of doing that uh, is this book, Love and Rockets.
Oh yeah.
I love Jaime Hernandez's work because I can always get lost in it. Um, as soon as I start reading it, it's like 10 minutes or an hour will go by and I forget I even like started reading the world. Like it's it's like experiencing somebody's life. And you can start on any page, any chapter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't go in any order. It's like a kaleidoscope.
Hmm.
And it skips around. It can skip around years, go back to the past, go back to the future, and you miss nothing because there's no ending to it and there's no beginning to it. There's no climactic battle that goes on at the end, or um, it just it keeps you engaged because it's about the characters' lives, not about where they're going or where they came from. It's so
Exactly. Yeah.
it's
I mean,
great.
part of the holy trinity of alternative comics, man. I mean, that's like, it's the apex, it's the descent, it's everything about the alternative comics that superhero comics are not.
Right.
But it's kind of the same thing. Like I think I've mentioned on the show before, Usagi Yojimbo is like the exact same thing. It's not, you can't like start on one page and you can take it from there. But each 20-page story is just about this samurai rabbit's life. He's just walking through feudal Japan. You know, he's got one advent. He meets this one person, does this one thing here. He goes and sleeps at an inn, and there's some thugs outside. And he's got to clear out the battle, and then on the next issue, he's just, it's like it's just their life. It's like it's not slice of life, but it's following these characters through their life, and not really going in any order. Just like
Right.
whenever we live, we just live day by day. It's not like we've got a planned sequential event happening all the time. And I think that kind of brings me to like the whole difference between you know creating comics in the sense of creating this timeless character that you are like Usagi Yojimbo, like Love and Rockets, where they started their career with Love and Rockets, the Hernandez Bros, and they've spent their entire careers fleshing out this universe,
Right.
fleshing out these characters, aging them in real time, versus, you know, another creator like uh, Sean Murphy, who is kind of jumping around from property to property, Punk Rock Jesus, Chrononauts and this and that. He's kind of like doing like almost like 6 issue, 12 issue arcs of these stories that are not connected in any way, totally different universes.
Right.
And that's something I always kind of struggle with thinking about too as an indie creator. This stuff takes us a ton of time. Like,
Yeah.
do we spend it fleshing out, this one universe with this one character who goes throughout its life, or do we kind of pivot every story and kind of make a plethora of stories? Do you ever kind of feel that sentiment ever cross your mind when you're making your books, stories?
Yeah, cause like it makes me think like what would be my goal as a creator or as an indie creator, and right now my goal is to get into full time comics or start making air writer full time, and I'm always thinking about what's the best way that I can create it so that I get enough followers to make a sustainable career, and making it in like issue by issue comic format, 20-page issues. Um, it's difficult to get traction that way because I'm basically creating page by page and then doing a drop at the end of a couple months or 3 months or more. And if I do a strip, that caters more to how people are reading things nowadays, where I do a quick 4 panel um, joke or just a little segment of story, and then I post it up on Instagram. People will swipe through it really quick. They get some enjoyment out of it, and then move on about their day, basically. And if I keep doing that over and over and over again, eventually I get good enough to do longer strips or longer form stories. By then, people will be invested in the characters to where they'll want to see longer form stories with these characters. Um, so I think for now, it's best to, for me personally, I'm trying to cut my teeth with Air Rider and get my feet wet in the comics industry by improving my skills doing these strips and being able to draw high quality within a day's notice or however long it takes, and not overthink it by doing like full comic strips by myself. I'm doing just daily, get them done, put them out there, be experimental as I want with it because I'm not trying like I need to express more instead of trying to tighten down and make my stuff look more professional. I want to make it how I want to draw it. You know what I mean? Like make it experimental so that I just learn more and more as time goes on, and then see what sticks with people as I put it out there. Because now I don't have to wait a whole 2 months when I'm done with everything and colored everything and done all that stuff, and then people say, "Oh, it's okay." I can like draw a strip every day, and then people say, "Okay." Like they just tell. I can tell by the likes, or I can tell by the comments. Like, "Oh, I like this one. Oh, this one was kind of lame." Or like I get that feedback. I get points of reference
Yeah.
um, just by like putting that stuff out there every day. So that's why I found that that method works for me right now in terms of my growth. And when it's time to move on to creating another property, that's when I'll be doing that. But right now, this is just what works for me.
Yeah, I think, as guys like us that are, indie creators, small press type of stuff, I think we do have to be flexible. And because like me, I'm doing this graphic novel. I need to understand like how my experience was with it, what the reception is like, and maybe let that kind of, I don't know if you should let that guide you in terms of exactly what you do next, but if it's something that your heart is drawn to and it's something that people are being drawn to, like that's the avenue you have to go. Because I've done books very very long ago. Um, they were an experience while I was doing it, but now at this stage in my career, I don't want to do those things anymore, and I don't want to continue those stories. I don't want to continue to grow those universes, because that's just not where my heart is anymore. So, you do have to kind of be flexible in that regard, in terms of like, look, we got to do what we're going to be passionate about. And that's something I've learned, no matter how much time and money you've spent on those last projects, you might need to be like, look, this is not what I need to do now. Let me jump from that and do this thing that I can put my all into. And that's kind of, I think it's a valuable lesson to learn. And seems like you're kind of experiencing some of that too right now. So that's great.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that crossroads between what I love to do and what will help me learn the most, and what people uh, want to see out of me, like what kind of comics they want to see.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure you listeners out there, you guys can relate to that sentiment as well. Making comics takes a lot of time, in some cases, a lot of money. So do what you want to do at the end of the day. And I think that's, the whole indie comics industry can kind of benefit from that. By people doing what they want to do. Better work yields out of that. So. But Ken, you got anything else to say on this topic?
No, that just about like wraps up all my ideas, and yeah.
Cool, man. Awesome. Let everyone out there know where they can find you.
Y'all can find me always on Twitter. I post every day, and right now I'm doing Manga Made by Monitor Comics, and I'm posting a new strip basically every day or whenever I get them done. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. And you can also find the longer form version of Air Rider, my comic, on Global Comics, and all the links will be in the description to mine and Nico's stuff.
Awesome, awesome. You can find me at Nico_writes on Instagram and on Twitter. You can follow me on my Substack, where I post a bunch of creative material, comics, all that cool stuff. That's at nicorodriguez.substack.com. Um, Other than that, I'm plugging away on my graphic novel, putting a whole bunch of process and stuff of that on my Instagram, and my Substack. Plugging away, so keep patiently waiting for this thing to get done. And if you are new to this channel, go ahead, give us a like, and if you enjoy what we're talking about here, give us a subscription. It'll be awesome if you do that, so you can get notified whenever these videos come every week. And that does it for this week. Appreciate you guys listening, and we will see you next time.